Welcome guys to this practice where we will be focusing on the diaphragm, a really important part of our breathing system. So you will want a couple of props today, maybe a pillow or a blanket. And if you would like to have a bolster for the end of the practice, please have a bolster ready. See you in a moment on the mat. So we're going to want to have either a rolled up towel or blanket and a smallish pillow. If you don't have those, go and grab them and pop them off to the side for a moment. And we will start in constructive rest position. So coming onto the back of your body, lying down, feet to the floor. Hands are going to place around the abdomen area. Wherever you want to place them on your belly, you can do so. Now, when we think about the diaphragm, well, we probably don't really think about the diaphragm, do we? We probably don't really think about it at all. We should. We should think about the diaphragm. As we inhale, the diaphragm pushes down into the abdomen, the belly will rise up. And as we exhale, the diaphragm comes back up underneath the rib cage, the belly kind of comes back down. Now, this works in synergy with the pelvic floor. So as we inhale, the pelvic floor is also going to be pushing down. And as we exhale, the pelvic floor is going to be coming back up. So working like these two hammocks working together. So it can be quite nice to put one hand to the lower abdomen area around the pelvic region, or even tuck your hand underneath so you're feeling into the pelvic space, or on top. And one hand around kind of the rib cage, underneath the rib cage area, so you can feel the breath moving into these areas of your body. Now we think as we inhale, the diaphragm is actively pushing down, therefore the pelvic floor is relaxing. And then obviously vice versa, as we exhale, the diaphragm is relaxing and the pelvic floor is engaging only about maximum 30%. We tend to have overactive pelvic floors. So just become aware if you feel there's not much movement down in this lower region, or you're tensing the whole time. If you find it difficult to let go as you inhale into the lower abdomen, or you're squeezing as you exhale, feeling everything jolt in, just become aware of that. We're really focusing on the diaphragm more today in this session, but just become aware that the pelvic floor is going to be working with you. Still, you can't just isolate one part of the body. It all works as one. So watching this movement and slowing down your breathing. Creating a little bit of space for your body to breathe today. Now, another important note is to recognize where the head is in alignment with the diaphragm. Working with the phrenic nerve, if we have the head or the cervical spine, the neck, in line with the diaphragm, it's much, much easier for the breath to be smooth and connected. If our heads are jolted up like this, which we often sleep, or we put a pillow behind our heads, we're rounding and curving the spine, making it actually harder for us to breathe. And you can do this. You can lift the head up and try and breathe here, and then drop the head back down and just realize how much easier it is when we're much more aligned on your diaphragmic breathing. And I'm not saying that you have to be in this position all the time, because actually it's great that we can move in different positions. But when we're focusing on trying to strengthen or awaken the diaphragmic area, we really want to encourage space for us to breathe into this position. Good. One more breath here. And then just releasing the head by moving the head a bit from side to side. If there's any tension in the neck, that's obviously going to affect the rest of the body. And releasing, so moving the pelvis up and down as well. So creating a little bit of movement in the pelvis, releasing tension up the spine. It's nice and soft movements. Good. Then we'll hug the knees in towards the chest. Pull the chin in towards the knees and just give yourself a big cuddle, rounding the spine as much as you would like to. And you can either roll all the way up to seated or roll to one side and push the body up momentarily because we're going to come back down. Now, Take either your blanket, your rolled up blanket or towel, or you can take your pillow. I'm going to use a rolled up blanket here, and I'm going to roll it up to a point. It's not too thick, but it's not too thin. We're going to place this kind of behind the ribcage region, so that as we drop the head down, we're opening up into the lower ribs, so we have space to open up here so that the diaphragm can be a little bit more able to move. Now, if it feels uncomfortable for your back, take less pressure. So unravel your towel or your blanket a little bit more and take less. This is not about encouraging a deep back bend here, but just about freeing up the diaphragm. We're going to take our fingers, and I'm sorry if you've got fingernails, I don't have fingernails, but you can manage to palpate this area without digging in with fingernails. Now, underneath the rib cage, that's where your diaphragm lives, underneath. And we're going to just palpate, and you can gently kind of cat the tummy. I prefer this on flesh, but you don't have to. You can always just do it over your clothing. You can do one side and just kind of palpate underneath the rib cage, or you can do both at the same time. Maybe tucking your fingers all the way in and just exploring and breathing into your fingers, inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. It'll obviously be a bit more strained as you're inhaling because you're pushing against your fingers. And again, inhaling, exhaling. And again, inhaling, exhaling. One more, inhaling, exhale. Slowly release the fingers really gently and just start to massage out the rib cage area. The intercostal muscles, so the space between the rib cage, can be quite tender. Now we'll work our way up to the base of the sternum, which can be quite sore. So go easy on this area. Work up the sternum, just very gently giving yourself a little bit of palpitation and a little bit of massage, all the way up to the chest, above the breast tissue, massaging underneath the collarbone. This was really nice in this area. Again, can be quite tender. And then above the collarbone, digging your fingers down into kind of the first rib region, all the way across to where the collarbone meets. Again, this can be quite sore. You can give it a bit of a rub or just gently press in. Again, not ideal if you've got fingernails. And then releasing the arms, and just notice how much easier it is to breathe, hopefully, just from that little bit of palpitation. Good. One more breath. Now you may want to roll off to one side, pushing into the hand to lift up. And we're just going to move our blanket off to the side and come up onto our hands and our knees. If you need, if you need to have something underneath your knees, by all means do. And again, just move around the center of your body. Think about moving around from this kind of rib cage region, a little bit of freedom into the diaphragm area. Now we'll plant down through the right hand, the right leg, extend the left arm out and take a big stretch of the side of the body, opening up underneath the rib cage. It feels so nice to open this side of the body. We forget how obviously important it is to have space in the side of the ribs. Because when we breathe in, really actually we're going not just into the front of the body, it's going expanding outwards. And we can drop that left hand down and go to the other side. Left knee down, right leg out. Stretch as much as you'd like. Good, then coming back onto the hands and knees. We're going to set up for a little bit of pressure into the tummy. So take your blanket or you can take your towel. I'm going to roll mine out a little bit more flat. So I've opened my blanket out a little bit. I'm going to roll it up. And it depends on your body, but I'm going to take my blanket right into the center underneath the rib cage and just come into a Sphinx position. This is good enough for me for now, and I can feel the tops of the rib cage just resting, or sorry, the bottoms of the rib cage resting onto the top of the blanket. And then I have to work a little bit harder here to breathe into it. So we're exercising the diaphragm softly, so it's not too strenuous. Strenuous. I like making up words. And every time you exhale, just allow your body to sink into the blanket or the pillow just a little bit more. You might find that over time, you might want to come down onto the forearms and drop the body in. If you feel the pulsing of the heart, wonderful. Now remember that your diaphragm is similar to the heart in the fact that it does not tire, which is so amazing. And just like the heart, it can be strengthened. We'd never really think to exercise the diaphragm. It doesn't take much. Deep breathing or slight pressure into this area to make it have to work a little bit harder is a simple way to allow the diaphragm to exercise a bit more. Good, and very slowly, as we come out, we can press the hands into the floor to lift the body up, coming into maybe a tabletop position, or we can sit back onto the heels and just allow the blood to flow back into the abdomen and feel the ease of breath coming into this space. Now we can leave our setup like this. If you do want to bring a bolster in, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it just with my blanket. But you can always make it a little bit thicker. So it's going to go underneath the sacrum. So we can come and lie down on the back. Excuse me. Lift the hips up, and the blanket or pillow or bolster is coming under the sacral part of your spine, so your tailbone and then your sacrum, not into the curvature of your back. So remember that there is a difference there. Now, what you may want to do here is keep your feet grounded, place your hands to your abdomen and just keep breathing. Now you're adding a little bit of weight into the diaphragm, so you have to push against the internal organs a little bit more to exercise the diaphragm. It's a simple way to strengthen your diaphragm. If you would like to stretch out a little bit, elongate the legs away. If this doesn't agitate your lower back. So you're also working and breathing down into the lower part of your abdomen as well, lower part of your torso. Thinking also about setting breath down into the pelvic floor as well, so working with both. Your arms can always stretch over your head if this feels nice. And encourage slow, full, deep breathing. Only a few minutes of your life can really help encourage the nervous system to rebalance and re-regulate, the heart rate, our emotional body. Obviously thinking about the exchanging of gases. Remember that when we have a higher increase of carbon dioxide as well, this is a good thing. It allows for hemoglobin, which is traveling around the blood, to detach from oxygen and actually go into the tissue. So it feeds, oxygen is fed into our tissue when we have an increased level of CO2. So our exhaling slowly is important. As well as our inhale for re-energizing the body. And think how wonderful it is that we're giving the internal organs a little bit of a massage just by breathing a bit deeper with the diaphragm. Good, then very slowly draw the feet back in. If they're extended away, you may want to lift the hips up and remove the towel or bolster, whatever you have, and maybe just give a little bit of movement into the back, the hips, the rib cage. Now, I'm going to place my pillow onto my tummy, lengthening my legs away. You might want to bring a bolster underneath your knees. I'm going to wrap my body up so it's nice and warm. If you don't need a blanket, that's okay. And if you want to keep the feet grounded, you can also do so. Adding a little bit of weight here onto the tummy as we rest into shavasana. Maybe the hands place onto the pillow, or they can come underneath and place onto the abdomen with the pillow on top. I like to place my hands on top of the pillow like I'm hugging the pillow, kind of a soft connection into the abdomen. But do what feels comfortable for you as you rest into shavasana for the next couple of minutes. Before we completely let go though, we're going to encourage our exhalation to be as long as it possibly can. When we get to the end of the exhalation, pause. When you feel a need to breathe in again, softly breathing in. Breathing out, a long exhalation. When you get to the end of the exhalation, take a pause. As soon as you feel the need to breathe in, breathe in. Do this for as many rounds as you want. You might organically feel ready to then let it go and come back to normal breathing. Or you may even want to continue for the next couple of minutes in your resting position. And I'll let you know when it's time to move out of this space. So you don't have to worry about timing. But simply focusing on your breath and relaxation.
Now very slowly, start to become aware of your body. If you let go of the awareness of your breath, you can come back to feeling into the breath. Maybe take a big yawn. Maybe a big sigh, maybe making some sound. We might want to draw the knees into the chest and perhaps rock a little bit from left to right. Maybe keeping hold of that pillow as we roll into a fetal position and just pausing here momentarily. Lifting the body up nice and steady, nice and slowly, coming all the way up to a comfortable seat. I'm still cuddling my pillow. We'll close off our practice with a last awareness of breath. Trying to align the shoulders over the hips. Bring the hands to the heart center. Maybe bowing the head forward. Thanking yourself for your breath, for strengthening into the diaphragm, for honoring the movement that happens within. Namaste.